Welcome to this edition of Business Foresight. This week we talk to a gentleman, Mohammed Hassan, who is an artisan. And as you can see, basically dealing in artwork. That is creation and formation of names in a very artistic manner. Very interesting, as you will find out in the course of the entrepreneur segment. The components that I used will surprise you. This was formerly a bone belonging to, is it a goat or a cow? Yeah, these are bones that have been grinded nicely and also smoothened and colored to make them attractive. So all those ornaments, the necklaces, the beadwork that you see around, most of it is as a result of this kind of work. We will also later on in the show be talking to a gentleman, Murimi Karedi, who will talk to us about how you can spur your business to make economic sense. My name is Zawadi Mudibo, and this is Business Foresight.
Mohammed Hassan grew up in Kibra slums, and famous as Africa's largest slum. His upbringing, he says, was characterized by managing life through thick and thin. He had to make a do with extremely deplorable conditions to eke a just living. But guess what? Whatever has a beginning has an end too. And so, as fate would have it, he was later to make headways, and on this day he notes with nostalgia how he was able to defeat all odds, rise above the challenges he faced, and become an artist. Not the kind we have now, but one who involved himself in acting as a part-time venture to make ends meet.
I do art in general. I was an artist, as in a performer, but things didn't go as I expected, so I choose this part. But all in all, even this one, what I'm doing right now, it's art. So art in general, this is what I'm doing.
The venture did not provide nor offer much monetary reprieve for a young man whose mega earnings were also relied on to support his mother.
Nilikuwa msanii, actor, stage performance, ani actor yani. Nilikuwa nikiigiza set books. Nilikuwa na group moja inaitwa Jicho 4 Production, na vile vile nilikuwa na group nyingine pia ilikuwa inaitwa Fanaka Arts Theater. Sasa nilifanya hiyo katika takriban miaka kama 3 hivi. Sasa mimi kusema kweli, yani biashara ilikuwa kitu ya ndani sana kwangu. So the more nilikuwa nikiact, the more I was feeling like I have to do something out of the box too. Yeah, because I have that power of business. So nilifanya miaka 3. I used to travel pia. Travel like Kenya mzima, and then after that nakuja piga shows za Nairobi. Then ikafika time nikasema enough is enough, wacha nichukue hii path, na sasa ndio hii ndo riziki yangu, rafiki yangu.
He lets us into his kind of career then with a demonstration of a recited piece.
Kuna kitabu ambacho kwamba kinaitwa Kidagaa Kimemozea. Basi Kidagaa Kimemozea tunapata pale. Hiyo nilikuwa nikitamba peke yangu na rafiki yangu mwingine alikuwa anaitwa Eriko. Alafu kuna pali ama lines zingine zilikuwa zinanifurahisha, maana nilikuwa nikiongeza kwa kizungu tunaita quad-lib. Sasa kulikuwa na binti moja ambaye kwamba alikuwa anaitwa Michelle. Basi Michelle alikuwa anampenda mzungu mmoja ambaye kwamba alikuwa anaitwa Majununi. Sasa huyu Michelle kusema kweli alikuwa akimaliza sana. Sasa ndasema kiusanii. Basi ama kwa kweli, ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba, assalamu alaikum wapenzi watazamaji, karibuni katika Kidagaa Kimefanyia nini? Kimemozea. Basi kabla sijaanza, ningependa kuwasalimu. Basi wadogo, hamjambo, wakubwa, shikamoni. Basi moja kwa moja, ama kwa kweli kama alivyosema mkwazi mwenzangu, basi nakwambia Michelle nakwambia alikuwa mrembo kushinda wanawake wote hivi sasa ambao kwamba wananitazama. Michelle nakwambia alikuwa akimaliza Majununi, na Majununi hakuwa la kufanya. Majununi kusema kweli yeye alijiona anapagawa, alikisha na nguvu, na Majununi alikata kidata, na yeye akafanya kila kitu. Majununi alipanda juu, akashuka chini, akaenda kushoto, akaenda kulia, kama walivyosema pwani kule jamani, kichwa cha chini kikisimama, cha juu kifanyi kazi, nakwambia. Basi pia hayo tafakari ndugu yangu. Ishakuwa rafiki yangu.
A fine talent, you would argue. But that also gets me thinking, just what would have been the reason behind his complete change of course? Why is he today more interested in beadwork as opposed to acting?
Miaka miwili nilikuwa nikisafiri na group inaitwa Jicho 4 Production. Hapo nilikuwa mchanga, hapo sikuwa na majukumu, kwa hivyo nilikuwa naenda nafanya kazi, ile pesa yangu kidogo nachukua, nafunga macho, nanunua kitu kimoja. Wakati huo nilikuwa naishi na mama pale Kibira.
And so welcome to the unveiling of the new Hassan, an entrepreneurial youth whose passion for making a just livelihood has led him into beadwork. It would interest you to know that the beadwork he involves himself in has peculiar components. Though looking polished and refined, the various artworks are as a result of some tedious work put in. He derives the now white painted artwork from animal bones, especially goat and cattle.
Sasa kuna rafiki yangu mmoja fundi hapo Kibira ndio anafanyia kazi. Sasa pia mimi nimemwandika. Kwa hivyo nampigia simu, anakuja ananichongea mfupa. Sasa hii ni mfupa. Ina kazi nyingi sana. Saizi ni safi lakini ina kazi nyingi sana. Mimi najua kenye anafanya.
Na ni mfupa ya nini?
Hii ni mfupa ya ng'ombe. Ng'ombe, mbuzi, anachukua na recycle, anafanya hivyo, anakuwa mashine yake. Anaikata. Sana sana watu wanapenda hizi za mapenzi hizi, za heart. Kwa hivyo namwambia nitengeneze kama pieces kama 1000 ama 500 hivi, na pieces moja kama hii rafiki yangu inatoka shilingi 10. Kwa hivyo ukiona kama nataka stock mingi kama 1000 na piece moja ni shilingi 10, hiyo ni pesa nyingi sana. Alafu at the same time kuna material nyingine pia. Tuko na hizi locks. Hizi locks lazima uende ukanunue. Pia packet moja ni kama 150 hivi. Alafu tuko na hizi beads pia. Alafu tuko na hizi beads zingine na pia hizi za white. Kwa hivyo formation yote ya hii stuff, yani hii kitu yote ni kisimama hivi, yote hii imenikula takriban kama shilingi kama 40 bob hivi. Alafu 40 bob hivi ama 35 hapo nikienda kama student sometimes nauzia 50 bob ama 100. Ina depend na shule gani imekam. Alafu pale uchumi kuna bei yake. Sasa hiyo ndo kazi mimi nafanya rafiki yangu.
He then assembles other components like the beads, which he sources from fellow entrepreneurs, then weaves nice designs depending on the product of choice. On completion, the products are ready for the market. All these he does in his one-bedroom house in Congo area of Kawangware, Nairobi. He then dispatches them in bulk at wholesale to retailers. The business returns have been fluctuating, he says, and has recently reintroduced a retail wing where he too sells the artifact or beadwork directly to clients.
Mimi niko na duka langu pale Uchumi Hyper. Sasa pale kila wiki mimi naenda pale mara 3. Ijumaa, Jumamosi na Jumapili. Kwa hivyo pale naenda pale katika hii yangu moja mimi huuza shilingi 200. Kwa hivyo takriban kusema kama wiki moja mara 3 nikifanya pale kama 1500 ama 6000. Yeah, so nauzia wale wenzetu wako pale, tuna negotiate. Wengine pia wananialika katika zao, naenda nawatafutia. Kwa hivyo niseme ni kazi ya msimu yani. Kwa hivyo ningepata na pahali yani ambao kwamba ningekuwa nafanya kila siku, inaweza nikuza kabisa.
It is a venture that rakes him tens of thousands each month, but regrets there are no clear growth opportunities provided by government for businesses of this nature.
Kwa watu ambao kwamba wanaona saizi, pengine unaweza kuwa ama kama naweza pata mdhamini. Kwa hii kazi rafiki yangu ni kubwa sana. Hii kazi rafiki yangu tukisema youth empowerment, kama youth kama mimi nimeji-empower na kitu kama hii. Kwa hivyo nikipata mdhamini ambaye kwamba anaweza nisaidia na capital, anaweza nisaidia na marketing, inaweza kuwa nzuri sana. Cause hii mimi nafanya na bibi yangu saizi. Bibi yangu anakam, anatengeneza hizi mfupa, mimi nafunga lock naenda kuuza. Kwa hivyo hii inaweza kuwa source of employment kwa my youth. Naweza recruit watu, niko na nyumba kubwa, niko na nyumba nyingine pale. After that naweza waita hapa niwapatie kidogo ambao kwamba wanataka, niwapatie wanatengeneza hizi. Alafu kuna shows mingi sana. Lakini hizo shows mingi siwezi enda peke yangu kwa sababu stock nitaka nini? inataka pesa.
He is not faint at heart though. He holds at the end of time, he will rise above his own imagination and grow the one-man business to an empire. And with that, he has some advice for peers.
Haijalishi kitu umefanya kwa hii dunia. Hata kama profession yako haikulipi na uko na another alternative kitu ya kufanya yenye ambayo kwamba inaweza kukusaidia kimaisha, trust me. Achana na hiyo profession yako, nenda kwa hiyo. Kwa sababu vijana wengi rafiki yangu tuko na certificate nyingi sana, lakini kazi hamna. Lakini vile vile unaweza pata kijana kama mimi na kipawa cha kuact na kipawa cha kufanya art bid kama hizi. Kwa hivyo si lazima profession yako ilipe bill zako. Kwa hivyo wewe kama ni mwanaume, wewe kama ni mwanadada, soma kabisa. Lakini kama hiyo kisomo chako ama profession yako haiwezi kukumudu kimaisha na uko na another njia ambayo kwamba inaweza kukuwezesha unaendelea maisha yako, basi fuate hiyo njia. Kazi ni kazi. Pesa haiwezi andikwa hii kazi ni ya bids ama ni ya media ama ni ya wapi. As long as at the end of the day uko na motive yako, as long as at the end of the day you know what you want, you know what you're doing and you love what you do.
And as we depart, one thing is clear. Life becomes what it intended to be. In our call to action.
Well, thank you very much and welcome to the interview segment. This is our expert corner and today we are humbled to have Zawadi Mudibo, who will be talking to us about business. Now, he is a policy analyst that has dealt with issues in business ranging from policy matters to execution. And today our focus is on the young man that we just had his story on the entrepreneur segment, a gentleman that deals with beadwork to generate in bulk for purposes of selling and distribution to retailers. Now we want to understand just how such a business can make economic sense, not just to him as an individual, but also for people that are probably not in employment that may want to get some source of livelihood through the business. And that secret is only in growing that particular business. So as an individual entrepreneur, are you looking forward to or are you envisioning to grow your business? That is what we will be finding out. And today we want to know from the gentleman a couple of issues. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, I would like you to begin us basically by looking at this gentleman and entrepreneurs in general. How do you sustain such a business model?
First, let's congratulate the young man for good work. And say that for you to sustain what we call a business like what he has, there are certain key fundamentals. The first is you need to respect the business as an independent entity so that the sales, the costs, the areas that make a business are given the respect. So not withdrawing money as it comes in, but having a respect for the business, like a predetermined payment to yourself as a salary, which remains constant irrespective of whether the business is overgrowing or not. The second one is being sensitive that the business has competition. So looking at the competitors and starting to understand who are you competing with, what must you do better than the competition. The third one is the consumer. The consumer is basically the people who buy your products, starting to understand their tastes, knowing what colors they like, knowing which items do they require. Is it necklaces? Is it for the arm? Is it for the leg? So basically having the consumer mind on your side. And the last one is basically now what we refer to as the country, the geographical area that you operate in. Starting to know what are the regulations of the type of business you are in, what is government asking you to comply. So the whole of that area, so that once in a while you are aware that, for example, you can't use ivory to make your beads because the law doesn't allow that to happen. So those type of things. So in summary, we refer to them as the 3C. The first C is competition, the second C is the consumer, and the other C is the country. Yes.
Now, having known about the 3 C's, we are looking at a situation where you want to be successful in every business. And basically, I think that is the reason why people get into business, to be successful and to be independent. So what can sustain such success?
For the success now, assuming you are clear with your 3C, in other words, you are happy that the competition, the consumer, and where you operate in the country, you know everything about that. Then you come to the detail. The detail starts with a strategy. So as a business, you need to be clear that you actually have a roadmap. That roadmap is what we refer to as a strategy. How do I start? Where am I coming from? And what do I want to do? Which is the objectives? How will I do it? Which is the strategies. So you have the where, which is your vision. You have the what, which are your objectives. And then you have the how, which are your strategies. Having crafted the where, the what, and the how, you then prepare what we refer to as the implementation matrix. The implementation matrix is, this is where I am, and the how to do to go where I want will be done in the following way. That step-by-step analysis of your day-to-day activities, your weekly activities, your monthly activity, your annual activity will give you what then becomes your step 2. Step 2 is tying the strategy to a budget. So you come to what we call the budget for the business. The budget for the business should capture as a minimum 3 items. The first is your revenue, which is how do you want to sell, value-wise and volume-wise. So like in this case, how many pieces of beads, that's the volume, what price, that is the unit price, which then multiplied together gives you the revenue. The second of the budget component is the cost. And this is where the small people miss. What is it costing you to do what you are doing? That cost must incorporate a bit of your time. So you must cost yourself in arriving at the unit cost, because that cost then gives you an indication whether your selling price is good or not good. So the costing side is very, very important. The third, and also a very critical part, is where do you get your raw materials from? And where do the people who make your things, what we call labor, come from? So the raw material and the labor, those two components will constitute substantively what we call the direct cost of the business. The direct cost is what you must not sell below for your business to be sustainable. So if you find that you are selling something below your actual direct cost, which is the labor and the raw material cost, then most likely that business will close. So that's the area. So you have the strategy and then you have the budget. Once you're happy with that, then you go to the last one. And the last one is where the small businesses once in a while mix themselves, which is the regulatory compliance. That is the taxation. That is the filing of your annual returns, the monthly tax returns, the VAT compliance. You know, all those areas can easily close a business. Because if you don't start them on time, then once in a while the taxman may come with a bill which may shock the total business, and you find you have actually closed the business.
Now, I'm looking at this gentleman and many other entrepreneurs who have begun small and are probably projecting and saying, in 3 years, I want to be a big company, I want to employ quite a number of people. So what is the secret of growing an SME to a middle income company?
Now, remember where we started? We are saying you have your consumer, you have your competition, you know the country. Then you have come to the second one, which you have your strategy, you have your budget, and those are talking to each other. Now you start doing what we call producing the actual accounts. So year one, you make your accounts and you realize that out of what you did the whole year, I made a profit. You come to end of another year, which is your year 2, you find, yes, I'm actually making a good profit. So that tells you the business is talking. The business is saying, where you chose is a correct place. You are in the correct side of the business. So now you want to sustain it. You want to make it grow. You want to move it now from you to a business complete. So the number one item and the most important one is to start agreeing you need an advisory small group to start working with you. That group, we refer to it as a board. So we encourage small businesses to start internalizing a concept of having a board which then approves the budget for you. It starts approving the strategy for you. It starts giving you an additional thinking which you did not have alone. That process of selecting the board is a very, very key part of moving the business from SME to a mid-row. So who you choose, how you choose, should not be based on your friends. It should be based on the competencies that you, the owner, wants to add to yourself. So you almost sit down to say, I'm an accountant, for example, maybe I need an economist. If it's in this case of our Fred, maybe I need a good marketer who can give me export market. So those are the names you start looking for to constitute your retro board. To start with, we normally recommend don't go to beyond 5 names, including yourself. So you're like looking for 4 outsiders and then yourself. Then once you fix what we call the governance, which is the board, the moving to the mid-row requires you to now internalize something we call a medium-term thinking. Medium-term thinking means you start challenging the business to tell you in the next 5 to 10 years how will you look like. So you start doing extra research now. So to move an SME to a mid-row, you need solid research to talk to. So you need to research the area you are in, you need to research the markets, you need to research the products, research the consumer mind. Why would the consumer continue buying what you are calling your products? So that 5 to 10 year blueprint is then the journey map, which now pushes you to implementing the moving to the mid-row income. To the mid-row class. The mid-row class will be a sustainable business which indirectly starts having an identity of its own. It is no longer talking to the owner, it's talking to itself as a business. Yes.
So what are then the specific issues or techniques such a business can use in order to attain the desired growth?
For it to go to now the desired growth, there are 3 major items. The first is market research. A good business that now agrees I want to overgrow must start investing in correct research. So the business needs to research correctly and get the research talking now rather than you, the owner. Because all of us start with a vision and we overlap our vision. Now I want the business to grow on its own. So the business now needs to investigate its own vision apart from what I gave it as an owner. It's what we call the original purpose, tested now for long-term sustainability. So you're using the research to give you that backup. The second is branding. What is this identity of these things you are calling your good products that will make them sell? So it's what you find the big boys out there, the Coca-Colas, they over-invest in branding. Why? Because branding talks on its own. It doesn't need people to support it. The brand now starts saying, I am here. So if you enter the fashion world out there, you'll find the big brand names over-invest in branding. So most of us will not even buy the clothing design, we buy the brand. So you find you have gone somewhere and you're picking the brand rather than the design itself. So for this particular case, especially the case we are dealing with, it's a fashion-related type of a business. So it needs branding to support it for the long term. The third, which is also very, very key, is now the people. What are the competencies for this brand which I have selected? What type of human beings in terms of both the skills, the education, the ability to see new markets, all those things is what we are calling competencies. So you, the owner, now starts investigating, do I have the right employees? And that bit for SME is sometimes challenging because once in a while maybe you have a bunch of relatives.
Which then brings me to my last point. What is the role of government in trying to grow this youth, to bring up an economically sustainable population?
How would government support? We are saying government plays a very key role, especially for the youth. We have the obvious 30% procurement policy, which has already been communicated out there. And we are saying the government has a very big responsibility in one, identifying what we call the youth in business, the youth in entrepreneurship, so that when we are discussing with those in business, the government is discussing with those who already know. So you're not like arguing whether they can do, you are now starting to say how can they be supported. So policies like Buy Kenya, Made from Kenya, those policies become very key for these type of businesses. And we are suggesting, like in this particular bid case, if the embassies out there would agree to support the buying of these type of bids, put them out there so that when visitors come to visit our embassies, the price that we give them or the gift that we give them is one of these bids. And if we have that bid with a brand name, because we are now saying it has moved to the middle, so the bid has a brand, then that brand name tomorrow can sell itself into that market, because the people you have given as a gift can then go out there and be seen with that brand, and other customers can be attracted into that brand.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate for sharing those insights. And that was Murimi Karedi talking to us about spurring growth in business. And we had a case study in our first segment talking to the gentleman Mohammed, who is been doing this business of beadwork, getting out fashionable beads for sale in wholesale to supermarkets, to retail shoppers, and what have you. And therefore, that forms the end of our Expert Corner. We are glad you found time to join us, and we believe you got impacted positively. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
In our call to action this week, our focus is on renowned global businessman Sir Richard Branson. Richard Branson was born on 18th of July 1950. He is an English businessman and investor. He is best known as the founder of Virgin Group, which comprises more than 400 companies, most importantly Virgin Atlantic Airways. At the age of 16, his first business venture was a magazine called Student. He says, and I quote, "My biggest motivation is just to keep challenging myself. I see life almost like one long university education that I never heard. Every day I'm learning something new." And so we ask, are you learning by the day? That does it in this week's edition of Business Foresight. Time now to take a look at the funny clip of the week. See you next time. I'm Zawadi Mudibo.